I researched Bali real estate in the last 10 months and here's what I learned. I've combined all important factors you need to know in this video. I've met with developers, construction companies, management companies, villa owners and the locals to find out what is the best choice to make as your first investment. I also included a couple case studies in this video to help you understand what the possibilities are in Bali. Today we're going to talk about what makes a good investment, how I did the research, how to use AirDNA, how I did the market research, why I invested in the location I did. I'm going to talk about the Notary, ROI calculations, land zoning, leasehold, freehold, personal investment compared to PTPMA, my investment strategy, and of course multiple case studies. So you want to start investing, but you don't know what the you're doing. Where do you start? At the basics. Let's go to my computer. So what makes a good investment? You want to invest in something, and this something needs to generate money, a lot of money, with the goal of a high ROI, so there's room for OPM to scale faster. So what's OPM? It's called other people's money. If you have a very high return of investment on your investment, that means there is a lot of room to lend someone else's money in order to do the investment and to pay him his interest, and on top of that you will make as well. That's why I would like to make a high ROI, so there's a lot of room to use other people's money. So what are the key components in a short-term rental villa investment in Bali? First of all, you have your purchase price. That's including the land, the building and the lease years. Secondly, we have the nightly rates, of course after the Airbnb fees. And we have the occupancy rate. This is the amount of days a year the villa is rented out. Ideally, you want your purchase price to be on the lower end, with the nightly rates and the occupancy rates of course on the higher end. For example, if you buy something for $100,000 and you rent it out for $150 a night with a 90% occupancy rate, you will get a return of $29,500 per year, and that equals a 29.5% ROI. If we compare this to my calculations for my villa, I bought mine for $218,000, and if you run a 70% occupancy rate with a nightly rate of 180, which I have been doing research for, with a profit margin of 60%, because you have your management fees, your cleaning, your gardening, your basically everything, the overhead costs are 40%. Usually, that's why I calculate with a 60% profit margin. You will make around 12% ROI when your occupancy rate is 70%. When it's 90%, the ROI grows up to 16% per year. In order to find out what locations are the best for your investment, you need to find out where the purchase cost of the land or the villa is lower, with the, of course, occupancy rates and nightly rates are higher. In order to find that out, I used AirDNA. This is a tool that can help you give a lot of data and information in order to find out if a location is interesting or not. You can basically see all those purple dots here are Airbnb properties. This is the Canggu area. As you can see, it's very busy with properties. I myself am here in Balangan. You can filter, for example, in submarkets like Ubud, Seminyak, Canggu, Sanur, in order to find out what locations are the best. So what I've done, I've researched basically the whole island in order to find out what the best location is. So here's a spreadsheet where you can see my research. For example, I bought my villa in the city or town Balangan. So what I've done, I've been looking at the map of AirDNA. I basically zoomed in the area where I'm going to buy my villa, or where I actually bought it. And I filled in all the listings, what their revenue is per year, what their monthly revenue is, what their occupancy rate is, what their nightly rates are, the amount of bedrooms, how long the listings are online. And here on the right, you can see the average revenues for the 2 bedrooms and the average revenues for the 3 bedrooms. And when you scroll down here, you can see the average occupancy rate of 76% with a nightly rate of $223 per night. I myself bought a 3-bedroom villa, so I calculated myself with an occupancy rate of 70% and a $220 per night. For example, if we are going to look in the center of Canggu in Barawa, the average 3-bedroom has a 71% occupancy rate with a $200 per night price. But the problem is, the villas and the land in Canggu are way more expensive than the area I'm buying. And even though my nightly rates are higher and the occupancy is the same, but my purchase price is lower, that's why my ROI will be better. Everyone thinks Canggu is the best place to invest, and I do agree it's a good place, but the prices of the land and the villas are rising sky high, while the nightly rates don't grow that fast. That's why I choose to go to Balangan. To give you some extra information, Balangan is a town a little bit north of Binging, and Binging is one of the most famous hotspots in the Uluwatu area of Bali. For example, I've spoke to some people and I bought some information in order to understand what the land prices were. For example, 2 years ago, the land prices were 8 million per 100 square meters, 8 million Indonesian rupiah per 100 square meters. And now after 2 years, it already increased in price with 450%. That means the land is getting 4.5 times more expensive. And when I look at the Balangan area, the land also doubled in price in just 1 year, because I spoke to developers there. In the area I'm buying, they also paid 8 million per ARA, and I myself paid like 15 now, so it already doubled in price. So the reason why I invested here is because it's very close, only like 10 minutes with a scooter from the famous Binging. And that means there's a lot of potential to get a lot of appreciation on my investment. For example, this is a villa in Ubud, Bali. This villa cost $450,000 in order to build it. It's a 4-bedroom villa with an inside to outside pool, very luxurious. That's why it's also more on the expensive side. But I have the exact rental information and results in this spreadsheet. It's a big mess, but because there's a lot of things going on, we can see the revenues in Indonesian rupiah, but I changed everything here to the US dollars. So it's doing like a 9, 8, 11, 6, 8, $8,000 in revenue per month. But of course, there are also expenses. We have the salary of the people working in the villa, internet, pest control, communication, community donations, rubbish collection, pool chemicals, and all that stuff. That's your gross revenue minus the gross cost. And of course, you're going to need a management company, taxes, and those kind of stuff. So the total expenses go from there, and you will left with a profit of 5K, 5.9, 9.6, 4.6, with a annual result of $72,000, almost $73,000 in profit per year. But the purchase price was 450K, so the ROI in this case is 16%. This is a nice example. So what you can see here is a couple calculations I did in order to understand what the best choices were. I have a couple of case studies later on. So I decided to maybe build something myself. I knew the price was going to be around 150K to build it, but you're also going to need land. So I did some calculations here for the land in order to find out how much everything is going to cost, what the ROI in years is going to be, compared with the land prices, locations, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, let's talk about the notary. The notary is a very important factor in your process of buying something in Indonesia. In my case, my notary actually saved me 3 times from getting into a lot of trouble. For example, the first time I wanted to buy a piece of land, I asked my notary to do the due diligence. When a notary does the due diligence, they're going to check the legal documents of the land zoning, if it's actually correct, like the seller is presenting you, and they're going to check if there are any tax problems or people that still need to be paid tax on the land to make sure everything is perfect. But on the first land I wanted to buy, there were problems. Basically, the owner or the guy that said he was the owner tried to scam me. So you really have to be careful here. The notary in Indonesia is basically your lawyer, and he or she needs to help you make the right decision. Also, the notary is going to help you with the contracts, the payment processing. They can help you measure the land, check the location, help with the permits, even make sure you can use exit roads if they are public or not. All those things are very important. The second time the notary saved me, there was another big issue going on. And the third time is actually the villa I bought right now. There was also a problem, because it's very easy in a country like Indonesia to skip certain legal things to save some money. In this case, my developer made a little mistake not doing a second time due diligence, because there's a very big part of land and my developer bought a small piece, and on this small piece he built 4 villas and one of them is mine. But the original land has been sold to 2 different people, and my villa, as you can see in the picture on the screen, was based on 2 pieces of land. So that basically meant that the pink part was my villa, but the blue part was on someone else's land. And my notary luckily caught this problem, and the notary made the developers change all the contracts up in order to get me safe. And I only paid like $500 for the notary. So this is a very important thing to do, because you don't want to get scammed or make any mistakes that you will regret later. Also, there are a couple important things you need to think about in your contract. In a lease agreement, there should be a clause that states the second party is permitted to transfer the lease rights to another party, either in part or in full. This means that you can, whatever happens, resell your land lease plus the building on top of it to a new buyer. This is a picture from my contract. The second party is allowed, given permission by the first party, to build a house, and buildings on the leased land according to the form and construction decided by the second party. Blah blah blah. That basically means that you have the permission to build something on the land you are leasing. This is actually the extension clause. This is very important because I have a lease investment. That means that I'm leasing the land, in my case, for 30 years. And in my contract, I can extend the land after 10 years until the last year. So I can rent it out for 10 years, then I can decide to extend the land, or I can maybe rent it out for 29 years and somewhere in between extend the land. But you need to have this clause in the contract, so you have the first priority to basically buy the extension of the land if you want so. If you want to extend your land, the only thing you have to pay for is the land, not the building on top of the land. So in my case, the land currently is like 15 million per ARA, and 1 ARA is 100 square meters. So my land is 1.65 ARA, and let's say in a couple of years the price has increased to 25 million Indonesian rupiah, which equals around $1,500 per ARA. I need to pay $63,000 in order to extend the land for 25 years, which is very cheap, because in those 25 years I'm going to be making $625,000. So that's an extra 600k profit. Then we have the zoning, very important. Land is zoned in Bali according to what it can and cannot be used for. We have green zone, that's agriculture zone. You cannot build on that location, so you better not do it. The yellow zone is residential. This is what I have. This is what you can use to renting out on Airbnb. You have the orange zone, that's mixed, commercial and tourism and residential. The pink zone is the best one, that's tourism. That basically also means in the pink zone you can build higher floors, and in the yellow zone you only can do like 3 or 4 floors. So tourism zone, the pink one, is the best one, it's also the most expensive. And then you have red zone, which is not very common, but that's commercial zone. So if you are planning to rent out your villa, whether for the short or the long term, it's essential that you ensure that the location is in the right zoning. And land zoning can change frequently, and your notary will check the zoning during the due diligence process. And like I said, she saved me 2 times already. If your villa is in the wrong zone, you might not be able to obtain necessary permits to operate it as a business. And then you're basically fucked. In Western countries, it's common to own property freehold, meaning you own both the land and the structures on it. But in Bali, freehold ownerships give you full control of the property, including land and buildings. And it offers, of course, security and potential value appreciation. However, this is very hard for expats or Western people, because only Indonesian nationals can hold freehold titles. If you are a foreigner like me and you want to have a freehold property, the only way to do it is using a PTPMA foreigner investment company. But it's important to also know that it's not really 100% freehold. It's basically a different way of leasehold for 80 years, and you typically have to change it at the council every 30 years in order to keep it legit. But of course, talk to your financial advisor for this. But in my case, I picked Leasehold because the ROI is way higher. Like I said, in my case, I use Leasehold because it's a lot cheaper than Freehold. So it reduces my purchase price while my nightly rates and occupancy rates stay the same compared to if this unit was Freehold. Then we have the personal versus PTPMA investment. Of course, for this, also talk to your financial advisor and make sure you pay your taxes to the Indonesian countries. In my case, I did a personal investment because this is an off-plan investment and I'm not building it myself. So in that case, I can do it on a personal name. But if you're really going to develop something yourself or your own villa, it is mandatory to do it under a business license with the PTPMA. Then, of course, we have building permits. We have the PBG and the SLF. These permits are crucial if you want to rent your villa on the short-term rental platforms like Airbnb, Booking.com and those things. Previously known as IMB, the permit is now only issued after the villa is complete. This is very weird because you're going to build a villa and after that you're going to ask for the permits. That sounds a little bit the other way around, but that's how it works there. It requires multiple inspections to ensure the villa meets the standards outlined in the technical drawings. This is what they call the SLF permit, and it's basically, if you are in the right zoning, 100%, what he told me, guaranteed to work. Let's talk about my strategy. These are the three scenarios with my first villa investment. The first one is renting it out for 30 years and extending the land and resell the villa to the new owner. I bought this place for $218,000 and I'm renting it out for like 25k profit a year. And if you look at 30 years, it's going to be a profit of 750,000. But of course, in between the 10th and the 30th year, I have to extend the land. And in this calculation, I used the 63,000. So you have to pay that. But you're going to resell the villa with probably a nice appreciation as well. The second one is, because I have a 30 years leasehold, it's very common to buy something with a 25-year lease on it. So I made sure I started with 30 years. So I have 5 years extra. Those 5 years, I negotiate these 5 years extra. It cost me like $15,000 extra. But of course, in these 5 years, I'm going to make way more than the $15,000 I paid for these 5 years extra. So I'm going to rent it out for 5 years. And then I will have a proven track record of the results of this villa, which will give the new owner a basically easier decision, a more safe decision because he knows how it's performing. And of course, I will have a nice appreciation on the villa. For example, if we can resell it for 300k, that's also a profit of $82,000 plus the 5 years of rental income for 115k. And the new owner has 25 years left on the lease plus the 25 years extension. So he's also very happy. And I will walk away with the 150k profit and an extra 300k for the resale price. So I will have 450k to reinvest again and do the same trick with 2 villas. So it's basically a trick to scale faster. The third scenario is to rent it out for 30 years, do the extension and rent it out for another 25 years. And then you will make around 1.3 million. Keep in mind, the yearly profit is 25,000 in this calculation, but every year this is going up due to inflation. So this 1.3 million will probably be north of 2 million. But after all those years are done, the villa will go back to the original landowner. The family of them will have a nice villa, and that's for them a way of making money next to the land that they are leasing, of course. All right, let's talk about some case studies. This is a very nice 2-bedroom villa in Balangan, Uluwatu. It's like 7 or 8 minutes away from mine. And I bought the PDF of the people that built this villa. So I know exactly what they did, what everything cost. I even spoke face to face at the office with their developers. I'm going to work with their management company as well. They spent 211,000 euros, which is like $225,000. To build this complete villa. The 30 years leasehold. I know this couple that built this villa paid 8 million rupiahs per hour, and now the land after 2 years in the same location is 30 million, so that's the 4.5x increase. The construction of this villa, including design, pool, landscaping and permits, was 138k, but the total was 211,000 euros. The villa has been running for like 1 year on Airbnb. and now it has been sold for $390,000 within 1 or 2 years after completion of the villa. I knew this because I wanted to view this villa, but it was already sold within like 3 weeks or 4 weeks, in ieder geval very fast. Next case study. This is a case study from the Black Pearl in Ubud. It's a 2-bedroom villa. I know the owner of this villa paid around $211,000 because I was looking in building something the same like this. But the construction company said that this villa was starting at $280,000 now, because in this 2 years difference, there has been so much inflation in the materials, the manpower, the staff, basically all around Bali, that the prices just increase. So there's a lot of inflation going on in the Asian countries. And that also means that if you buy something now, in my case for $218,000, when the villa is done, the price will be much higher. The nightly rates will be higher. After renting it out for a couple of years, the nightly rates will be slowly growing. So your return of investment will be higher and higher and higher every year. All right, next case study. This is also a very nice one. I actually been in this exact villa to have a look. This is a 4-bedroom villa in Canggu. I know what it's going to cost if you want to build this, because I was talking to the construction company and the developer. It's a little bit of a mess with the calculation, but this villa, you can build it on a 300 square meter land or 400. Let's talk about the 300 square meters because that's cheaper. The land was 126,000 euros for I believe 30 years or 25, can't remember. But 126,000 euros. The construction was 4.5 billion rupiah, which equals 258,000 euros. So the total price would be 384,000 euros on a 3R land to build the same thing in a similar location. And this villa is actually performing around $9,000 in profit per month with a ROI of 28%. Let me show you how it looks, and let me show you the results as well, because I've got everything. This is the villa. It's a nice 4-bedroom villa in a nice location in Canggu, but this is a very, very good performer. If we look at the results, I blurred out some names. This is the 4-bedroom version, January 2024. January is a pretty slow month in Bali because of the rainy season. If we scroll down, we have all the expenses of the staff, the management costs and everything. If we scroll down here, we have the profit of $9,000 and $8,300 of euros. So that's a lot. When you look at 6-bedroom variant of this one, it's even more, $11,500 in profit. After all the expenses, this is what you're making net, after taxes, everything. So this is a very nice one with a 28% ROI. I don't think I'm going to get this ROI myself, but maybe after 3 years after inflation, this will be possible. All right, let's talk about my villa. Here you can see the render on the picture. It's a 3-bedroom villa with 3 bathrooms, private pool, with a small pool. It's 2.5 meters times 5 meters, I believe. But for the first investment, it's good for me to get to know everything. So let me show you some of the financials here as well. So I bought it for 218,000 euros. You have the nightly rate of 220 euros. This is the rate that you see on Airbnb. Let me show you here in this example. All right, I'm gonna try to make a booking. Okay, let's go for a couple days here. So the nightly rate is 317 euro for 4 nights. This is what the consumer is paying, but this is not the actual amount that the villa owner or the management company is going to receive, because Airbnb is deducting some fees. Very important to know. I calculated with 18%, so that leaves you with 180 euros that you're gonna keep. 265 days a year, 70% occupancy rate, 60% profit margin. That gives you a 27k profit per year. You have to pay 10% tax on this profit, so this will be the remaining profit, 24,889. So the ROI is going to be 7.8 years, which is on the high end. I'd rather be around 6, but my management company has a average occupancy rate of 85% in my area where my villa is going to be. So I'm probably going to be around 6.5 years ROI with this price. But you also have to keep in mind that the price is going to increase along the years. So let's say if I'm also going to get 85%, the price is going to be like 250 after a while, and then you will dive under the 6 years pretty fast. My goal is to get an ROI in 6 years. But right now I'm calculating with a 2,000 net profit per month. And that amount I'm going to reinvest in different assets, Bitcoin, stocks, and a little bit of cash. And I'm going to get interest on those investments as well in order to get an even faster return. And in this spreadsheet, I'm going to show you here my forecast. And in this section, I'm actually going to show you the actual results of this villa to make sure and actually find out if it's accurate or is there something going wrong. I just want to be very transparent regarding everything. And here you can see that I'm going to reinvest 1,000 euros in the S&P 500, 500 euros in Bitcoin, 500 euros in cash, with all the annual returns I'm going to get here. So the returns will probably be a little bit faster than 6 years for me because I'm going to reinvest in these assets. But of course, it brings a little bit of risk. But you know what they say, no risk, no Rari. So I'm hoping to make a ROI in 5 years. That's around 20% ROI. And then I'm going to buy the second villa. And right now I'm doing some other things in order to get a second villa to basically reach my goal faster. So I think that's it for the video for today. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, drop them in a comment and I will use them in the next video. And talk to you later.